A lot of people are talking of the web series Adolescence that is on Netflix, and a lot of people have also posted their reviews on it. I have posted some thoughts on Facebook, but it's a very long post and is not shareable on Instagram. So I'm creating some videos to share my thoughts on this series as a parenting coach, as a psychotherapist, and a trainer. First of all, I would like to just briefly tell you, I'm sure all of you have seen it, but for those who have not seen it, it is a 4-part series about a 13-year-old boy in a city in UK where he has knifed or stabbed his classmate. And the series starts with the authorities arresting him, and over the 4 episodes we see the boy's perspective, the parents' perspective, the authorities, and the environment that he's grown up with. The first and foremost point I would like to make about this series is that as parents, if we think that our child is safe because he is in his room, then we are absolutely wrong if the child is in the room with a phone and a social media. Because when the child is in the room, we think that the child is protected from all the evil elements and all the negative things from the world. But actually, by giving the child a phone with social media, we are bringing that entire toxic world inside the child's room, in the child's hands. A child with a smartphone and social media has access to the whole world, which is full of unfiltered content, adult content, violent content. And while we would like to believe that because a child is not stepped out of the house, the child is okay, it is far from the truth. This series clearly points out how this boy, who was always in his room, was actually exposed to social media that exposed him or that taught him toxic masculinity, that influenced his idea of feminism and masculinity. There was also cyberbullying that he went through on his social media. So the first point is clearly that our children are not safe wherever they are as long as they are exposed to social media and phone. The second point I would like to bring out in the series is this whole topic around bullying. We do not take it very seriously. In fact, many schools also do not take it seriously, but bullying, whether it is done physically or online, is extremely toxic for children. It is one of the ACEs or adverse childhood experiences, and children who have gone through a lot of bullying in childhood have a huge vulnerability to a lot of mental health issues like anxiety, depression, addictions, PTSD, and violent outbursts. Bullying, as we see in the series, has been happening in the school where children are spitting in somebody's plate, throwing garbage in somebody's plate, calling out names, isolating them, and yet, unfortunately, the authorities are not doing anything about it. This has to change because bullying does not just happen online, it also happens in the school. And children who have been bullied grow up with a lot of anger, resentment, and internalized rage that oftentimes comes out the way it came out in case of Jamie. Online bullying also happens, cyberbullying, where unknown people, sometimes faceless people, can post anything and call you names and call you whatever they want to call you. And this online bullying is also very, very unsafe for the young children of today. So as parents and authorities, we have to warn our children. We have to take strong steps against bullying of any kind. The third point I would like to bring out is we must understand that the children's brains, teenagers' brains, are not fully developed. The amygdala, or the stem of the brain which is responsible for impulsive behavior, is fully developed. But the part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational thinking, for logical thinking, for understanding the long-term consequences of their decisions or actions, is not fully developed till they are 27 and 28. So teenagers, even if they are very intelligent, perceptive, smart, like Jamie was, still do not have certain brain centers fully developed which are responsible for impulse control or for rational thinking. Hence, exposing them to content which can influence them can be very, very risky. So as parents, we need to know that they do not have the logical development yet to understand which content is good and which is bad and what will happen if they do certain things. Which is why Jamie in the episode seems as he knew, he was a very smart, perceptive young boy. He knew what he did was wrong. He knew why he did what he did, and yet he was not able to control himself. This is because, like I said, the impulse control center is not fully developed till the child is 27 or 28. So as parents, we have to keep this in mind. Another thing is that this whole concept of toxic masculinity. Today we are in a society where men or boys are expected to be very masculine, male, and masculinity or being real men is associated with violence, abusive language, physical violence, being fit, or interested in sports. And boys who do not adhere to this concept of masculinity, who are soft, sensitive, artistic, who have more softer tastes in life, are looked down upon. In fact, they are told that girls do not like these kind of boys, and these kind of boys are teased, bullied, isolated, called girlish or feminine, effeminate, and they are made to feel they are not good enough or man enough. This causes a lot of internalized anger and rage and toxic shame among these boys. And then toxic shame, to deal with this anger and toxic shame, sometimes they create a fake self, they show artificial masculinity, or they might indulge in violent behavior just to prove that they are man enough. Interestingly, all these alpha males also think that girls only like men who are masculine and alpha male. And our movies also promotes this culture. But the same girls who like these boys who fight and abuse and do all these violent behaviors to protect their girls, the same girls, when they get married to these boys, most of them regret it for their lives, because these men or alpha men or toxic masculinity that they have is not necessarily a good sign of a life partner. So I would just like to say that have conversations around this masculine feminine identities, around this whole toxic masculine culture that is being promoted online through movies, through social media, etc., so that boys do not have the pressure of confining to that, and boys who are not like that shouldn't feel that they are not man enough. Last but not the least, I would also like to say that Jamie, who did what he did, was in an act of rage. So he kept saying it was not him. As parents, if we think that our child is safe because he is in his room, then we are absolutely wrong if the child is in the room with a phone and a social media. Because when the child rage, anger, toxic shame, humiliation was continuing to grow, and these parts of us that we have suppressed, that we don't show, sometimes hijack our main core self and hijack our behaviors and make us do things that we don't like. So Jamie, what he did with that girl was probably not his real self, but the part of him that was holding all that anger, rage and humiliation, that hijacked his logic, hijacked his real self and did what he did. He probably regretted it later on. He probably realized and then pleaded guilty. So I would like to say that we all have these parts with us. That could be a judgmental part, a helpless part, an angry part, or a warm, sensitive part, and all these parts can be harmonized. We do teach parts work or psychosynthesis at Wellness Space in Module 4. So if you are a psychotherapist, it is a very interesting modality to learn and to help your clients deal with such conflicting parts or such triggered or wounded parts of their selves. I would also like to conclude by saying that as parents, what can we do? Well, Jamie's parents did everything that they could. If you saw, they took him to all kinds of sport activities. He didn't like it, so they got him a computer so he could be at home. Parents try to do everything that they can. But what I felt was missing in Jamie's case was an emotional connect. Parents probably missed the cues or missed reading or being a part of his life because they didn't know that he was being bullied in school or what was going on in the social media in his space. So if parents could probably have more time to connect with the child, then they would have picked up these cues early on. The series shows that both the parents are working. Clearly, the father was brought up by an extremely abusive, violent father, and probably the father was emotionally shut down. So while he didn't beat his child the way he was beaten up, he thought that was great parenting, but unfortunately, I felt as a therapist that the father was emotionally numbed out, and his way of just coping with any difficult emotion like anger, sadness was just to laugh it out or distract the mind, go for movies, have popcorn, joke about it, and not deal with these difficult emotions. So he probably was not able to role model to his children how to deal with difficult emotions like anger, sadness, and rage, and hence they got suppressed in Jamie and came out in the ways it did. The father also had broken his shed of the house once in extreme rage and anger, which shows that the father also probably keeps suppressing his emotions and they come out once in a while in a very dangerous way. The mother also had no connection with her parents, which tells us that the mother also probably came from a dysfunctional family and she was also probably not emotionally connected to Jamie. So all of this shows that parents may provide all physical comforts and needs to the child, but if they are not emotionally connected, if they are not a part of the child's life, especially in the growing up formative years, then the child can really go out of hand and they may miss out all the warning signals that they need to see. So this is my review of this series. I would encourage all parents to watch it. At the same time, remember that not all children do what Jamie did. So do not worry, do not panic, but do watch it just to be aware of what's going on and what we need to do as parents. Hopefully this series will help you reflect a little bit on what can you do differently to be more engaged in your child's life so that you can prevent such things from happening.